So we'll discuss some Birchas HaTorah, the brachas before Torah, and there are two types of Birchas HaTorah. The one I won't be speaking about tonight is when you get called up to the Torah for an Aliyah on Monday, Thursday, Shabbos, or any Yom Tov. So that's also Birchas HaTorah, but that's a rabbinical institution. Kriyas HaTorah itself is rabbinical, either by Ezra, Moshe, and the bracha is certainly rabbinical. The question we're going to discuss is the bracha we make every morning in the Birchas HaShachar, in the Siddur, together with the other brachas, La'asok b'divrei Torah, V'harevna, and Ashabecha Bano, which we'll see it's a discussion in itself whether it's two or three brachas. If you have some have the Siddurs have the Vav in it, V'harevna, saying it's one, that's only one, and then the second one is two. Or others don't have the Vav, and it's three. We'll see the Rambam's opinion is it's three. What's the practical difference? Either way, whether it's two or three, you're going to make the bracha. Maybe if you get two mitzvahs or three. But on a practical note, it happens sometimes on any night, but let's say Shavuos night when you stay up all night, and then someone else slept, and you listen to their bracha. So the question is, in the morning when you're half asleep, most people are sleeping, so it's not an issue, but did you enter Amen or not? You have to, La'asok b'divrei Torah, if it's three brachas, you enter Amen. If it's only two, so the meaning is that we don't answer Amen because, and therefore we cover ourselves if it's only two. So we'll come back to that. But that's the bracha we're talking about, the Birchas HaTorah. So what's unique about Birchas HaTorah, or we'll see if it is unique, is the Ramban writes, Nachmanides writes, Birchas HaTorah, the bracha, is a biblical bracha. 99% of all brachas are only rabbinical. The brachas we make before the Dr. Brown, the bracha you make before tzitzis, tefillin, talis, shofar, just about all the brachas we make are midrabanan. There's only one bracha which isn't in question, where everyone agrees this bracha is biblical. What bracha is that? Very good. That was Noah for the temple. So correct. We say v'achalta, v'savata, uveirachta. You shall eat, you shall be satisfied, and you make the bracha. Of course, the details to when, how much you have to eat, if you have to be satisfied, to be obligated biblically, but the concept of Birchas HaMazon, that's the only clear-cut bracha which is min Torah. That's probably him. Avichai, what's his name?
Avichai.
Right. So the question is, what about Birchas HaTorah? What's the status of Birchas HaTorah? So the Ramban writes, Nachmanides, that he clearly states, he quotes the pasuk in, I think it's Hazinu, and it's at the introduction to Mincha, Shmon Esrei, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, Havel Goldel Le'Elokeinu. Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, when you call out God's name, Havel Goldel Le'Elokeinu. So when you call out God's name, so, it wasn't him?
Come on.
When you call out God's name, so therefore you respond. In other words, when you call out God's name, i.e. the Ramban says that the Torah itself is names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore when you learn the Torah, B'Goldel, you make a bracha. So the Ramban learns Birchas HaTorah is a biblical mitzvah. So according to the Ramban, we have two brachas, which are min Torah, and we're going to come back to at the end of this year with a little hashkafa and machshava, how it's very ironic. If you only have two biblical brachas, you would think they'd have to get their act together. In other words, when do we do Birchas HaTorah? Before we learn or after we learn?
Before.
And when do we bench? Yeah, so the question is, when you're dealing with hundreds of brachas, D'Rabbanan, so sometimes before, sometimes in the middle, sometimes after. If you only have two, I don't care which, be consistent. That's all I care. Couldn't the Torah get its act together and either put them, so we'll come back to. If I don't, you'll remind me to. So the Ramban writes, Birchas HaTorah is a biblical mitzvah. The Rambam, Maimonides, is silent on the matter. He doesn't, what I mean he's silent on the matter is, he doesn't list it on his list of 613 mitzvahs. So of course all the commentators ask, why does the Rambam leave out this mitzvah? So then you have a whole host of opinions, and basically the question is it a fundamental dispute or a technical one? What do I mean by a fundamental one versus a technical? What I mean is, if it's fundamental, the Rambam disagrees, says Birchas HaTorah is only rabbinical, not biblical. That would be a fundamental dispute. Or no, the Rambam really considers Birchas HaTorah a biblical mitzvah. Why did he count it? So then, the Rambam, many times, the Rambam gives us his rules. So for instance, another famous machlokas, Rambam, or famous possible machlokas, the Ramban writes there's a biblical mitzvah and a biblical obligation to live in Eretz Yisrael. And the Rambam is silent on the matter. So again, you have a whole discussion in the Mefarshim on the Rambam. Silence meaning he totally disagrees. It's only D'Rabbanan, or maybe it's biblical, so why doesn't he count it? So one of the reasons they give by the Avnei Nezer, the Rambam already did count it. He just counted it in a different mitzvah. In what mitzvah? So there's a mitzvah when the Jewish people enter Eretz Yisrael, Hachreim Tachreim. There's a mitzvah to throw out the Zayin Amim, the 7 nations, who are worshipping idols, etc. So the question is, what's the mitzvah? Let's go into Israel, throw out the 7 nations, and let's move to Toronto. Let's live obviously the point is to throw them out and live there. So I'm pointing out, according to the Avnei Nezer, the Rambam agrees with the Ramban. The reason why it's a technical issue in terms of how you what you do count, what you don't count, but they fundamentally agree living in Israel is a biblical mitzvah. Same thing here. Within the Rambam you have the whole gamut. Some say it's a fundamental, others say no, he includes it in Talmud Torah, you'll find some other mitzvah. So that's a discussion. So we'll just assume for argument's sake now that the Rambam disagrees and holds it's rabbinical, which isn't clear, but let's just make that assumption. So what is the Nakudas HaMachlokas? What is the issue at hand between the Rambam and the Ramban? Why does the Rambam say it's rabbinical? And why does the Ramban say it's biblical? Just to point out, the Gemara seems to be a clear-cut discussion, because if you look at the Gemara in Brachas, on Chaf Aleph, the Gemara says, Minayin lebirkas HaTorah min HaTorah. The Gemara's question is, and how do you know Birchas HaTorah is from the Torah? And it quotes Kishem Hashem Ekra. So it should be open and shut. How can anyone entertain the possibility of it only being D'Rabbanan? Of course, so how could the Rambam go against the Gemara? And if you're a real brisker, it's a difficult Gemara. How could the Gemara be against the Rambam? That's the joke about briskers, that they think Rambam is everything. So therefore, if the Gemara is against the Rambam, it's a problem with the Gemara. But on a serious note, so how could the Rambam say it? So that's what they point out is, by benching, it's clear. V'yachalta v'savato v'rach. It's clear we're talking about Birchas HaMazon. But by Birchas HaTorah, it's not. It's Kishem Hashem Ekra Havalot. So it's different interpretation. So therefore, even though the Gemara says it doesn't mean it exactly. However you want to interpret it, it's a machlokes. We'll assume Ramban, whether it's min HaTorah, midrabu. So some want to suggest, what is the issue? The issue goes back to a fundamental question, which will have many nafkaminas coming up, practical differences, is what type of bracha is Birchas HaTorah? So in general, let's call them, there are 3 categories of brachas. Anyone want to take a shot at the 3 categories of brachas? What type of, like in general, not specific, we have 3 general categories. Door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3.
There's one for mitzvahs?
Correct. The one is the classical, what we call Birchas HaMitzvah. A bracha, before we do any mitzvah, we make a bracha. And in fact, the Gemara tells us in Psachim, usually it's over lasiyosan. First you make the bracha, then you do the mitzvah. Of course, a couple of exceptions to the rule, let's say like a ger. Obviously a convert can't make the bracha until after they went into the mikveh because they're not Jewish before. But it's the Yeshua. As a general rule, on a Birchas HaMitzvah, the bracha comes before. I see it's coming around now, tshuva. So, what's the second category of bracha? One is Birchas HaMitzvah.
Other is Neni.
Very good, the one we just made. Birchas Hanenin, from Hana. The bracha you make before you get benefit. As the Gemara tells us in the 6th parak of brachas, Ketzim Avarchim, Asar lahanos b'lom hazeh b'lo bracha. It's prohibited to get benefit from this world without making a bracha. The Gemara quotes a apparent contradiction in Tehillim. The one in it says, Hashem ha'aretz hamloa, the world belongs to God. Another one we say in Hallel, Hashamayim shamayim la'Hashem, v'ha'aretz nasan livnei adam. He gave, the Gemara says, lo kasha, no difficulty. Kan kodem bracha, kan achar bracha. Before the bracha, everything belongs to God. After the bracha, belongs to you. So, kind of like, so if you eat food without making a bracha, it's like going to the candy store and stealing the Nestle Quick Bar or whatever Nestle Crunch that is, or M&M's, whatever. So that's the second category, Birchas Hanenin. And what is the third category of brachas? Play the momentum.
Third category. No pressure. Is it like Birchas Yom?
What do you mean?
Like on Shabbos, on holidays?
Well, I'll tell you what you mean. What he means to say is, it's a Birchas Shevach B'Hodah. It's a bracha. You know, on holidays you feel you're in the praise mode. Birchas Shevach, a bracha you make praising God and the great, whether it's, a thunder and lightning bracha, or you see, tremendous things, you make, bracha of praise. In fact, Birchas Eres, in the bracha you make, or usually the rabbi, but whoever the Masada Kedushin is by the wedding, so that's actually a machlokes, whether it's the Birchas HaMitzvah, Birchas Shevach. But those are the three categories. So we have Birchas HaMitzvah, a bracha before a mitzvah. So in other words, Birchas HaShevach V'Hodah. So let's say, or Birchas HaNenin. So actually all three opinions are represented in Birchas HaTorah. But we'll just stick to the mainstream two for now. We'll put Birchas Hanenin on the side for a minute. So the two basic opinions in terms of, so if you say Birchas HaTorah is a Birchas HaMitzvah, means on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, I'm making the bracha. If I say it's a Birchas Shevach V'Hodah, I'm thanking God that He gave the Jewish people the Torah. So that's what the Ramban himself writes explicitly, Nachmanides. Shenitztaveinu lahodos l'shmo yisparach b'chol eish nikra b'Torah al hatova hagadola. The Ramban writes it explicitly. So the Ramban clearly holds it's a Birchas Shevach V'Hodah. And the Rambam holds it's a Birchas HaMitzvah. So there was someone to point out, perhaps this is dependent on whether it's biblical or rabbinical, because normally a classical Birchas HaMitzvah is rabbinical. So if I'm assuming the bracha and Birchas HaTorah is on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, it's also midrabanan. But according to the Ramban, that you're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us the Torah, so the concept of Hodah, so that could be a biblical concept. So someone to point out, perhaps this issue, whether it's not perhaps, the Ramban says both. He says it's Daraisa, and he calls it a Birchas. He doesn't call it a Birchas, but he says it straight out. The Rambam doesn't talk about it, so perhaps in the Rambam Shita, it's a Birchas, so that's why it's Rabbanan, because like all other Birchas HaMitzvah.
What's Shevach?
Shevach is praise. Shevach is praise. Hodah is thanks. Where else do we have this? We have 3 sections in the Shemona Esrei. Our 19 brachas. The first 3 brachas are Shevach. We begin with praise. The last 3 are Hodah. and that's no matter when you daven. And then the middle section changes. So during the week it's bakasha, which is walking.
Doctor over here.
So that's where it comes up. So what's the practical difference? First, before is we said it's what's the difference if I say it's Deraisa D'Rabbanan? Let's assume according to the Ramban, Birchas HaTorah is Minat Torah, and according to the Rambam it's D'Rabbanan. My nafka mina, what's the practical? We're all zealous Jews. We fulfill mitzvahs D'Rabbanan as well as mitzvahs. So I'm going to get up tomorrow morning and make the bracha whether you tell me it's D'Rabbanan or Deraisa.